It was one of those nights when the rain didn't just fall, it poured, like the sky itself was mourning. Streets in Cleveland, Ohio shimmered with the reflection of neon lights, and thunder rolled in the distance. For Ethan Miller, a 46-year-old taxi driver who'd been behind the wheel for nearly 2 decades, it was just another late shift, another night of chasing fares that barely covered his bills. But little did he know, this night would change his life forever. Ethan's old yellow cab smelled faintly of coffee and worn leather. The dashboard lights flickered every now and then, and the windshield wipers squeaked in protest as they struggled to keep up with the rain. He was exhausted, not just from the long hours, but from life itself. His wife, Karen, had passed away 2 years ago after a long fight with cancer, and since then Ethan had been living in quiet grief, working double shifts just to distract himself from the silence of their empty apartment. That night, around 11:40 p.m., he got a call for a pickup from a quiet street near the edge of the city. When he pulled up, he noticed a woman standing under a flickering streetlight, clutching a small suitcase to her chest. She looked to be in her late 20s, maybe early 30s, her hair soaked from the rain, her expression distant and tired. Ethan rolled down the window and called out, "Need a ride?" She simply nodded, sliding into the back seat, her eyes avoiding his. He started the meter and asked, "Where to?" "St. Matthew's Hospital," she murmured. Her voice trembled slightly. There was something in her tone, a weight, a sadness that Ethan couldn't ignore. As they drove through the empty streets, the sound of rain against the windows filled the silence between them. Occasionally he caught her reflection in the rearview mirror. She was staring out the window, her fingers tracing circles on the fogged glass. Ethan had driven countless passengers, each with their own story, but something about her made him uneasy, not in a fearful way, but in the kind that tugged at his heart. If you believe in kindness, in second chances, and in the power of doing good without expecting anything in return, please like, comment, share, and subscribe. It helps us spread stories that remind the world how beautiful humanity can be. When they reached the hospital, the young woman didn't immediately get out. She seemed lost in thought, clutching her suitcase tightly. Finally, she whispered, "Thank you," her voice barely audible. Ethan smiled gently and told her to take care. She nodded, left a small folded bill on the seat, and disappeared into the hospital entrance, her silhouette fading into the sterile white light of the lobby. Ethan waited a few seconds, watching the rain slide down his windshield. Something about her departure felt unfinished, but he shook it off. Another passenger, another story he'd never know the end of. He sighed, shifted the car into drive, and pulled away. About 10 minutes later, he stopped at a red light and noticed something odd. In the back seat, lying on the floor, was a small brown envelope, damp from the rain, but sealed tightly. He picked it up, curious, and saw his own name written on it, Ethan Miller. His heart nearly stopped. He tore it open, and inside was a folded piece of paper with shaky handwriting. To the driver, "You don't know me, but you once saved my life. 5 years ago, I was standing on a bridge ready to jump. It was raining and your cab pulled over. You told me it wasn't worth it, that whatever pain I had would pass. You gave me a free ride to a shelter that night. I never forgot your kindness. Tonight, I was on my way to say goodbye to my mother for the last time. She passed peacefully just after I arrived. I wouldn't have made it if it weren't for you. Thank you for being the light that night, and again tonight." Underneath the note, there was another folded piece of paper. A check. Ethan's breath caught when he saw the $1,000. He felt dizzy. His hands trembled as he clutched the note. He remembered that night vividly now, a young woman in despair, crying in the rain, and him pulling over, even though he was late for his shift. He had no idea who she was or what had happened to her after that, but he remembered what he'd said, "You matter. Whatever you're going through, it doesn't end here." Tears blurred his vision. It had been years since anyone had thanked him, truly thanked him. He pulled the car over to the side of the road, put his head on the steering wheel, and cried. Not because of the money, but because after years of feeling invisible, forgotten, and broken, he realized that even the smallest act of kindness could ripple across time in ways he'd never imagined. The next morning, Ethan drove back to St. Matthew's Hospital, hoping to find her. He went to the front desk, described her appearance, but the nurse shook her head. "I'm sorry," she said softly. "We had several visitors last night, but no one by that description signed in. He asked if anyone had left a suitcase behind, but again, no. It was as if she had vanished. Ethan sat down in the waiting area, staring at the people coming and going, families embracing, patients being wheeled by nurses, the smell of antiseptic filling the air. He opened the note again, reading it over and over, each word sinking deeper into his heart. For years he'd believed that life had taken more from him than it ever gave. But now, for the first time since Karen's passing, he felt something stir inside him, hope. He used the money not to quit his job or chase comfort, but to start something his wife had always dreamed of, a small foundation to help people in crisis. He called it the Yellow Light Project. It provided free rides for those who couldn't afford transportation to hospitals, shelters, or job interviews. Ethan started with just one cab, his own, but soon other drivers joined him. Word spread within months. Dozens of volunteers across the city were offering rides to those in need, inspired by one story of kindness paid forward. Late one evening, nearly 6 months later, as Ethan was closing his accounts for the night, his phone buzzed with a message. It was from an unknown number. The text read, "You turned my pain into purpose. I see the Yellow Light Project growing, and it gives me hope every day. Thank you again, Ethan." Ethan smiled, tears glistening in his eyes. He didn't reply. He didn't need to. Some stories didn't need an ending, just a continuation of kindness. From that day forward, Ethan made it his mission to speak gently, act kindly, and never underestimate the power of one good deed. Because he had learned something profound. You may never know whose life you've touched or how deeply your actions might heal someone else's heart. If this story touched your heart, please like, comment, and share it. Subscribe to our channel to keep hearing stories that remind us what truly matters: love, compassion, and the quiet miracles we create every day. And before you go, tell us in the comments below, have you ever experienced a moment of unexpected kindness from a stranger or someone you least expected? We'd love to read your story. That night, as Ethan drove through the quiet streets once more, the rain began to fall again. But this time, he smiled, because he knew that somewhere, out there, another life had been changed, just like his.